Hey, I'm Jasmine. I'm on the social media team here at Lush. Today is International Day of Trans Visibility, a day to celebrate transgender people worldwide, as well as a celebration of their contributions to society. With me today is Salinas and Mirsaleva, co-authors of My Sister, How One Sibling's Transition Changed Us Both. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
How are we doing?
We're good.
Good.
Okay, so as you can see, we're practicing social distancing. I'm in Vancouver, and...
I'm in New York.
New York City, Boogie Down Bronx.
Okay, how's everything in New York?
New York is a little bit chaotic at the moment. New Yorkers are not paying attention to the stay at home. Please stay home. The social distancing is a real thing. This is the only way we're going to be able to get back to our lives, and this is the best way to not only keep yourselves healthy, but keep those around you and your loved ones and even strangers healthy. This is a responsibility that we all have right now. We have to buckle down. You know, a couple of weeks in quarantine is a lot better than the other scenario.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I often look outside the window and it seems like it's a regular day for a lot of people walking out with their children. So I think that we need to continue practicing social distancing and looking out for one another, and also be thankful for the fact that you do have a roof over your head and shelter and food to eat, because a lot of people are complaining on social media, and there's people out here that are losing their place, don't have food to eat, looking for a place to stay, or being kicked out because they probably catch the virus. So people really should be thankful for where they are right now and appreciative.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of this talk and there's this negative energy with it, and something that we've been trying to do with Lush is really uplift the voice of how can we show and tell different things each week, and how can we uplift each other and start talking and practicing things that are bringing us joy. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. Something around you right now that sparks excitement, joy, that's bringing you comfort. What is it right now? I can start because I have a good one. So I've always wanted to master a Rubik's Cube. And so I've been watching YouTube things of little moves. I think it might take me a few months to really get through it, but this is sparking joy right now.
I love that. For me, on my end, it's this little guy. This little guy is sparking joy in my life always, and my cat. Animals, pets are just the most amazing gift that the universe can have given humans. And so no matter what I'm feeling, to get a wagging of the tail, or get the cat brush up on me, give me a little kiss on the nose, it's a wrap. It's a wrap with how my heart explodes. Yeah.
I love that.
And for myself, I would have to say social media, connecting with everyone, all the supporters that are sending us messages about the book and how it has impacted them in a tremendous way. And so that's really what keeps me going.
And I think that leads perfectly, because this book is phenomenal, so let's just talk about it. We basically gathered all these questions from our Lush community, so everybody was very, very, very excited to chat. So I can't take credit for everything. I'm just going to be the voice of our amazing Lushies and what they wanted to know about the two of you. So question 1, please tell us in your own words what the book is about.
Okay, I'll take that. So the book is about just two different perspectives with two voices discussing our transition, because often in times the family never gets to be heard on how they transition during my transition as well. So we just take you on a journey with the things that I experienced during my transition, and also what my sister and my family experienced as well during their transition. And so we just combined the two and just really giving you the resources and tools and statistics and numbers about the things that trans people face, and also what to expect as a family when someone in your family is transitioning or identifying themselves with the LGBTQ plus community.
Totally. I think that this is also a book about love, support, and how, love really does triumph. And if you remain open to understanding and open to learning, you can definitely save a life. This is a book of survival, and it is a celebration of how one person transitions and the family is there through thick and thin, not always easy, but we were there to support and to learn along the way. So basically, it's how Marisol's transition truly, truly transitioned us all.
And I just love it's all about being open. Like nobody's going to be perfect, but you have to be open. You have to be willing to listen.
Absolutely. And it's okay to make mistakes along the way. And that's just something that, I think maybe for myself, going through the process with my sister, watching her go through the process and then reflecting now, there was a period of time, maybe about 2 years ago, where I felt a lot of pain and a lot of regret because it wasn't smooth. I wasn't able to give like a perfect support system, but it was the support system that I had the tools to give at the time. So I think that as long as we remain open to learning, open to listening, I think that is the best thing that you can do to someone who is transitioning or someone who is basically part of the LGBTQ plus community.
I love it. Question 2. You decided to write the book in alternating points of view. Why was that important in telling the story?
Well, like Marisol said earlier, it was important to share both sides. Her as a trans woman, me as a cis woman, like to really kind of give both points of view and to show people that there really isn't a difference. We have to kind of like take away this idea, this myth that someone who is transgender is very different than someone who is not. We all want the same things. We all crave for the same things. We want love. We want security. We want health. We want good jobs. We have more in common than not. And so sharing the story and giving both points of views really opens people up to realizing that the process, although from the outside looks very different, it is truly the same thing. We may express it differently, but we're there. And it was important to me to show who I am as an ally by truly showing where we both were during Marisol's transition.
And for Marisol, how does your voice come in and connect with your sister?
Because yes, I was telling my story, but there had to be another dynamic so it all can come together and make sense. And so we want, like my sister mentioned, we wanted to show our readers and listeners that I had a family that supported. I made my mistakes, and I got to a point where I didn't have access to my family, and I had to learn throughout the way to like make my own way and just learn things on my own. And so I wanted to show that through our book because often I've spoken to different trans people and people in the LGBT community that this is something very common where they don't have their families and spend many holidays alone or might not ever see their family ever again due to their sexuality, their gender identity. And so being that we had the opportunity to write such an amazing book, I was like, well, this is something that my community needs. Our community they need to hear this, that they're not alone, and have them feel like there's hope moving forward just reading our book. And I think having the two different voices in our story pretty much explains that and shows that this is our story.
Watching the two of you together right now, because the way I'm looking at you right now, you're side by side, but you're not together. It's very beautiful. Like I feel like this is just something that people can relate to, and even if you just have your sister, all the things that you can get through. And which question number 3, how did your relationship grow, change in the course of writing this book?
Yeah, I think that our relationship definitely grew because we were able to share things now in the process of writing the book that we didn't necessarily know about each other. There was a point in time there that when you read the book, you'll see that we both kind of had a lot going on at the same time, and we both went on our separate ways, always connected somehow, but we were going through very different things that were changing us, and we had to go through them by ourselves. And to actually write the book and sit there and go through those moments was really hard. But they say, like, once you go through trauma with someone, or once you experience something, once you connect in that way, you grow. You either grow, or just or it falls apart. In this case, we grew. And I think that we both felt like, wow, we were both present, but we were not. I know that I felt a sense of guilt for not being there for a lot of the times that Marisol, what she was going through. But I also, like I said before, had to give myself a break and say, well, you couldn't have been there. You were not in a state to give anything to anyone other than, yourself at the moment. So I think that there was a sense of growth. There was, for me, a sense of regret. But then definitely, when everything is said and done, a sense of true love, like, wow, like, and compassion. And then you go, this person is even more special and even a better human being, because they were going through all of that and never even shared the depth of pain and turmoil that they were going through. So that does make you go, oh my God, this is quite a special human being to go through all of that on their own. So there is a level of heightened respect, heightened love. So definitely, I think that the book has transformed us and has taken us both and together to a different place.
I agree 100%, sis. And just to add on to that, I remember going through my different experiences. I felt like, okay, I'm getting older now. It's time to like do things on my own and venture off. And I knew that my sister was going through something as well, because I feel like we're emotionally, spiritually connected, and we might not know what's going on, but we feel each other and feel like something might be wrong. And so I knew that I was going through my personal things that were like a big weight on me, and I didn't want to put that on her, because I had a feeling she had something that she was going through that she didn't share. And so I didn't want to put that baggage on her, and I had to just figure it out on my own. Like, she gave me the tools to go into, found me a very great shelter that changed my life. And so I just decided to kind of keep away and do our own thing. And so what I learned from that experience was how resilient we are, and courageous and strong, and just how my sister handled every situation, because there's a lot of things that she's been through with her career and not being where she wanted to be, and just seeing that she had this resilient and being courageous and strong, a strong woman at that, was just like really admirable. And that's one of the things that kind of kept me going and through my experiences. Like, you got to keep going. You got to, like, you can't just break through and not, give up. And there was many times where I wanted to give up. And so I think our sisterhood definitely grew on that. And then learning all the different things that even added more depth into, like, wow, I respect my sister even more. It was an amazing experience. And I think that brought us even more closer and more sensitive to our situations and just moving forward.
I love it. Well, I'm glad that both of you didn't give up.
Yes.
Or else we wouldn't be here right now. Sisterhood is kind of the theme that we're talking about. So what does sisterhood mean to the two of you?
Basically, love, acceptance, patience, forgiveness. Like, again, everything is not perfect. I think that everything happens for a reason, and we learn through our situations and through our trauma and pain. And you have the choice to either continue living in that pain and that trauma, or you have the choice to make it something beautiful and something positive. And I think that sisterhood is about that, like taking something that might not be perfect and figuring out, how can we make this better? How can we turn this around, not only for us, but for other people out in the world that might be going through the same thing. So for me, the sisterhood is love, acceptance, respect, and admiration. And yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think sisterhood is support. Sisterhood is, no matter what, coming around again and realizing that at the end of it all, you can have disagreements. And when there's love, when there's respect, when there is patience, those things just happen. You don't even have to really give thought to them. They just naturally come forth. So yeah, sisterhood is love. Sisterhood is compassion. Sisterhood is being able to also not just be focused on yourself. It's giving at times that maybe you don't have that much to give, but you're still present. And sisterhood also means like also realizing, oh, maybe it's too much to give to that person right now. Maybe I have to step back and give that person a breather. So sisterhood is also space, you know. But at the end of the day, the foundation of it is love.
It is. It's all about love. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Marisol, we have a question for you. What does being trans mean to you?
I first want to say, because often people like to say, you know, you're trans, and then they revolve that's what you are 100%. I like to say first I'm a woman, and then I'm a woman with trans experiences. But the simple fact that trans is a trans umbrella, so there's so many different things that come after being trans, your sexuality, gender, like you, so many different things. And so I like to say that what trans means to me is just being visibility, acceptance, support, love, truth, honesty. I think that being trans, though, with the experiences that come with it, has helped me in many, many ways and to figure out who I was and my identity, because at one point I didn't even know the word transgender. So for me, it was life saving. Trans to me was life saving, because the vocabulary that came with it was pretty much how you would identify yourself. But the more I got into my transition, I realized, wait a minute, people get so caught up with labels and, you know, oh, you're a transgender woman and that's it. And it's like, no, I do have experiences that, you know, cis women do experience as well. And I always felt like a woman, but didn't have the vocabulary to describe that or to express myself. And so trans for me, what it means to me is life saving.
Yeah. And let's just get rid of these labels. Stop putting us in these boxes. We're just humans. We're all just humans.
That's right. At the end of the day, we're all humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we all have, you know, we all share the same needs. If you take a survey, it doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your sexuality, doesn't matter what you want to label yourself. It's at the end of the day, what we all want as humans is to feel safe, to be loved, to feel that your voice matters, that you are being heard. We have so much more in common than not. And I think that that's what I always try to stress to people is if you just stop for a second, just stop for 1 second and put yourself in someone else's shoes, you will discover that you have more in common than not.
Yes. If we all just listened to our own needs and then gave that to others,
Yeah.
we'd be golden. So when we talk about family, how did your family impact your journey to self-acceptance?
I mean, at one point, I didn't feel like I had the support from my family because I was out on my own and I had to figure things on my own and do things that I didn't want to do to survive. And so eventually, when I got my family back together and I totally changed my whole lifestyle and made a 360 to better myself. And I realized how much of an impact to have support for my family and accepting me for who I am and being able to come around them as Marisol and be my authentic self around them. And it plays a very big part because I was always scared about like expressing how I felt and being disowned and all of the stories that you hear out there that trans people and LGBTQ plus people are not accepted for who they are and they get kicked out. So I feared a lot of that for myself happening for me. I know what it feels like to not have that. And so having it from my family means the world. You know, I'm very extremely lucky. And the more I talk to like trans people who reach out to me and tell me, you are so lucky, it breaks my heart because I want them to have that too. And they deserve to have the same that I have and many others that are thankfully able to have their family to accept them for who they are. And I think that families need to like really stop and think about the life of their children moving forward as they succeed. And it plays a very big part for their family members to be there because often in times everyone that I've spoken to that doesn't have support from family or acceptance and love really turn into drugs, sex work, all of these different things that is basically a cycle. And it's like we need to like cut that cycle off and really show up for your children and be there for them and accept them for who they are. They're not any less than anything else. Just like my sister mentioned, they're not going to change. They're still the same person that you gave birth to or that you raised. They need the support. That's all they need. The support and love is what they need to be able to live authentic lives and be successful. Not saying that those who haven't had that, they still make their way and become successful and live authentic lives, but there's many that don't and don't have the strong power and will to do that because they feel like, damn, I don't have my family, or they look at other people that have family and they want that. And so I think that as families, we got to do better and show up for your children.
In terms of resources and all of this, and people that are going to be listening and want to learn, what resources did you find helpful during your transition?
I think that one of my first resources were pretty much my friend at the time, one of my best friends at the time, who I didn't know who was trans. And so she disclosed that eventually to me and a couple other people. And we all talked about like, you know, what gender, like what's your gender identity, your sexuality. And to me that was like the first time I heard that conversation. I was like a deer in headlights, like what are you guys talking about? Like I have no idea. And so it was interesting to see because it was a whole nother world for me. It was a whole different conversation for me. It was people that went into this space to feel safe, to feel validated, to feel accepted because that's where you could feel accepted and you could be yourself. And then eventually it was like, okay, now it's time to go. And you have to like turn it around and block that pretty much your expression, the way of like talking and stuff like that. And so she was like one of the first resources I have to say because that's the first time I heard transgender. And that was like a light bulb in my head for me because I realized, oh my God, this is who I am. Like all these years I've been trying to figure out myself, thinking that I might just be gay. Again, this is why I have a problem with labels because at one point I felt like I was gay and that was my only option because that was the only thing that people made fun of me as and they were telling me that's what I am. So I came to a point where I believed it. And so I was just like, when she said that, I was like, this is who I am. There's another world for trans people. They exist and we're here. And then also once I got into the shelter and along the way I've met so many other trans people as well. And just, you know, getting to know them and just getting access to hormone therapies and things like that. But I remember at one point I didn't really want to go that route because at that time everything was like black market. Yeah. And a lot of the girls weren't really seeing doctors to start their hormone treatments. And so I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to go, but the research were there, but not in a professional, safe way. Yeah. And I think the moment that I got into the shelter system is when I had resources for hormone therapy that were helpful, that were healthy, that were more a professional way of handling and moving forward with your transition. And so that was like my resources, and also doing my own research online, and I having the vocabulary to like, okay, now I can go online and look this up and do this and that. And so I also had to learn along the way for myself. Again, I made mistakes and I didn't know certain things. Looking back now, because there's a thing also, and that's just like talk back down on my community. But again, it's just going back into the cycle because we have trans people where they get caught up, they get introduced into this lifestyle, and I'm speaking on sex work, and they pass it on to everybody else. Like, okay, you know, this is how I'm getting by, this is how I'm surviving, especially in the LGBTQ plus and trans community. Especially in those times in my generation, people would say, you know, girl, this is how I'm living. I understand you. I know what you're going through. It's hard out here. Try doing this. And I think that now that we're living in a different time, 10 years later, like you don't have to like sort to that. You don't, you know, there's vocabulary, there's conversations, there's job placements that will support you. that you'll be able to go to your job like your authentic self. I remember when I was working, I had to quit my job for the same reason that I quit high school, because I could no longer continue going to school and having a job as the person I used to be. And I needed to be physically Marisol, and being that I didn't look that way, it was so uncomfortable to work in a workplace around others. It was almost like I couldn't be myself. We just have to do better and start breaking cycles. Not only we cannot express, talking to the cis community and outside of our community, but I think we also have to speak to ourselves in our community and really input that resource and moving forward.
And I do think this book will be a resource for people.
I think definitely, and we were very conscious to make sure that aside from telling our story, sharing Marisol's transition and the family story, we also made it a point to highlight different organizations and have a resource section so that when families, as well as those that are transitioning or trying to be there for someone, they can pick up this book and they can go to the resource section. If that's all you do, I already feel like we've done enough, by highlighting certain organizations and different telephone numbers that you can call, hotlines that you can call, because we do have more access today than we did 10, 15 years ago when we were going through this and when Marisol was going through this. So hopefully the book will also serve as a tool for resources.
No, I think it definitely will.
It definitely will.
It definitely will. So when we talk about allyship, about creating a safe space for non-binary people, what does cis allyship look like?
I think what it looks like for me, ideally, is a place where you can use, for me, for example, I use my platform. I'm using my platform, my 15 minutes or whatever to speak up and to say, this is what is important to me. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to tell you why. I think we all have that responsibility, especially cis people. If you want to truly be an ally, it's not just enough to retweet or to like something on social media or to, get with the trend. Maybe there's something really cool happening during the time and everybody wants to be a part of it. And you show up only for, Pride Month. And then the rest of the 11 months you're quiet. I think that we continuously need to show up. We continuously need to make noise. We continuously need to speak out when there is injustice. If our government is attacking our LGBTQ plus community, they're attacking all of us. It's time to speak up. If there is someone who has been murdered and who is transgender or part of the LGBTQ plus community, shame on you if you don't speak up. Shame on you if you don't take to the streets and march with the community. So I think that the true ally is someone who shows up throughout the years, not just once a month, not just when it's really cool to show up at a great parade. No, yeah, that's wonderful. But I think in order to really earn that right, to kind of celebrate, we have to show up continuously. Because what I find is that a lot of people are like, well, I don't know anyone, or I don't have anyone in my family. I'm like, chances are you do. Chances are you do. And at the end of the day, what we talked about earlier in this interview is, at the end of the day, we are all human. We are all connected by that simple fact. It's black and white as that. We're all humans, and we all need to stick up for each other, show up for each other. And that, to me, is what a true ally does.
100%.
Absolutely. And this was a question that came up a little bit of who gets to decide allyship.
What I feel about that is that if we're being inclusive when it comes to a group of people, you don't get to decide on who you show up for. Like, again, we have trans women of color getting murdered, and people are so pro-Black, Black Lives Matter. What about those Black trans women that have been killed year after year often? Not alone 2019, 24 women, transgender women of color murdered. And where do I see any noises about that? the numbers keep growing this year moving forward. And so if you're going to talk about something, a group of people, you need to show up to everybody in that group of people, not just the people you choose for. Because if you think that you want to make a change in our community, you have to show up for everyone else, because then you just sending the wrong message to the people you're advocating for and thinking that they should just only advocate for those people and not trans people. And so I think that we just need to do better in like representation and realize that we're all in this together. We're all in the same community, despite colorism, like gender identity, sexuality, and religion. And I think that once we start to realize that, then I think the whole thing about like showing up for who will continue to stop. So I think we need to do better as a whole and realize that we're all going through the same issues and experiences.
And I think that when we talk about who gets to choose, right? Like who is an ally, it's sensitive because, some people can argue, well, you don't know what it's like. You as a cis woman don't know what it's like to be part of the LGBTQ plus community. So what gives you the right to be a voice for me? What gives you the right to show up for me? And what I say is, I'm not here to speak on your behalf. I'm here to say that as a cis woman, I want you to have the rights that I have. I want you to be able to experience what it is to walk down the street without fear of someone taking your life. I want you to be able to apply for an apartment, for a home, and be able to have that given to you. I want you to be able to apply for a job and have the same rights. So for me, as an ally, anyone that will question why I am an ally or what makes me an ally, I'm a human being who simply believes that we are all entitled to live our truth equally. That's it. I don't have people that I know in prison, but I believe in prison reform. You know what I mean? I don't have necessarily right now someone who is in a detention center, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe that those people have the same right as you and I to be here and to be safe. So for me, who gets to choose what an ally is? Nobody gets to choose. You know what I mean? I think that if we start getting into that, then we get into like murky waters. It's just at this point, we have to show up for each other. Point blank.
Point blank.
Yeah.
Period. End of discussion. When we talk about the cis community, so what can the cis community do to protect the trans community from people that are very conservative? And even diving in deeper, like what does that look like on like a micro scale of just like your network of people to like a macro scale of like really voicing and making our stance on things and being vocal?
Yeah. I think what that looks like is basically as a trans community looking outside of it. I think we want cis people to actually do the work and go out there and do the research on what it means to be trans, what it means to be part of the LGBTQ plus, where there's so many different organizations that have the information out there on their website. thehumancampaign.com really breaks it down for you. You can just Google things. And I feel like there's people ask me all the time, I want to learn. They want to ask me all these questions. It's like, well, sweetie, I get it that I'm willing to like help everybody out and like explain a little bit about what it means to be who I am. But at the same time, we need to realize that the same energy you put on other things to research, you put that energy into. And so why do cis people often have to feel like they have to come to us as the source when everything is out there for you to learn? Not saying that I'm not open to having a conversation with you. I will be completely open to have a conversation. But I think what allyship looks like and for cis people who are interested to do better and wanting to learn is just doing the research out there and asking the right respectful questions, because often people do get into the whole first question they ask is, so what surgery have you done? Like, and to me, that's like, for trans people, that's completely invading our body parts and disrespectful, because alone transitioning and growing up trans we're already going through body dysphoria and hating ourselves and having insecurities and wondering, why am I like this? Why do I have these parts? And so asking that is a trigger to trans people. And I think
Yeah.
that the best questions to ask is things that make sense. Things,
Yeah.
how did you get here? Like, how was your transition? Like, what were the experiences that you went through? And also doing your part as going out there and doing the research. And also, like my sister mentioned before, don't just post, don't just tweet, like really show up. Go out to the courts that are like trying to pass bills to protect trans people. That's a great way to show up.
Yeah. I think that, and also the right question to ask a trans person or someone in the LGBTQ plus community is, how can I help you? What can I do to better serve what you would want? Instead of looking to them to educate us, right, on everything, it's like, what would you need? What do you need? What is it that you want me to know as a cis person? Also, making sure that you are demanding justice when justice is being taken away is important. As a cis person, I think that's how we show up for each other. We do that for ourselves. And I think that the more we open it up to include everyone, the better we'll all be. And also what I feel, as a cis woman, sometimes I'm in conversations and things come up and people say things. It's almost like, it's like, oh, this is a safe place, right? We can talk, and they'll say things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They will come and they will say things that are A, inappropriate, B, not true, and C, filled with more myth than facts.
Yeah.
So my responsibility, our responsibility, if we find ourselves in these kind of situations, when more often than not, if we're being very honest, we do find ourselves, it is our responsibility to check the room.
Shut it down.
It is our responsibility to check that person. I have done it by saying, well, what do you mean by that? Calling the person out. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, no, you know what I mean. No, I don't know what you mean. That's why I'm asking you. Or something along the lines of, well, like Marisol says, the first question is, well, what surgeries has your sister had? Whoa, that's none of your business.
Right.
I don't ask you, what's happening in your life, in your private, in the sanctuary of your home. So, right. So it's like, I think that we as cis people need to not only check ourselves, but we need to check our communities. We need to check the people we work with. We need to check our loved ones. It is our responsibility to stop. I don't like this conversation. I will be damned if I will be in a conversation in a room where someone is going to talk to me, I don't know, let's say about African American people or Latinx people. I'm going to stop you right there and then with fervor. Well, why can't we do the same thing when somebody steps out of line? I'm not going to participate in your jokes. I'm not going to laugh at your jokes because they're not funny. So I think that that's what we can do. We can check ourselves and check those around us. And there's ways of doing it without being confrontational. There's ways of doing it with like checking somebody, educating, and moving on, but not participating, because even in silence, even if you decide not to say anything at that moment, you are speaking volumes. If you decide not to say anything at that moment when something inappropriate is said about someone in the LGBTQ plus community, you are partaking. You are saying to that person, it's okay, continue saying what you're saying, because I'm going to stay shut. I don't believe in that. I believe in we have to speak up.
And it's often that these conversations are had with cis communities, especially male, and having these conversations like, oh, that's a man and this and that, and like that needs to stop, because that's adding to the violence in the trans community. That's adding to the murders that the trans women are losing their lives because of violence and because how people are expressing themselves about trans people.
Yeah. And I do like when both of you really stem from speaking up, but also educating people.
Yes.
And I think reading this book, this is a way that the cis community can actually educate themselves on another story. And when we talk about that, because I mean, I've been in situations where I've definitely been in those conversations, and I've also been in conversations with other trans people and gay people and lesbian, and I also witness transphobia amongst that
as well.
So how do we address transphobia in like the greater LGB community?
So let me just say something. From my experiences and watching the trans community as a whole and the LGBT community as a whole, I realized that this is a conversation that often is we have, right? And come to the realization that sometimes we don't support one another, and sometimes we share that transphobia amongst one each other, and also gay men who often put trans people down and like, oh, you're not woman enough, you don't look the part. Often in times, the trans women that are praised are the ones that look beautiful and cis women, like, and so I see that happening often, and I even got like discriminated against from my own community and telling me you're not a woman, you would never be a woman, you're a man, and this and all of these type of negative vocabulary. And I think that we need to just start doing better than that, because if we want to set an example to a whole community, a whole society, I think that we need to start with ourselves first and show the example, so when people look at us from an outside, they see the respect one another is given for each other. We're not that far away from what experiences you're going through in the LGBTQ community. Like, we all share the same experience. We just different. We just have different genders, different sexuality, different religion, different race. And so we need to do really better at like supporting one another, not putting each other down, and showing up and protecting also.
I think that also from, looking from the outside, right, and seeing sometimes the disagreements in the community, the LGBT and then the transgender community, is I'm always baffled. It's like, how can any group that has felt what it is to be discriminated against, has felt what it is to, have to fight for rights, then turn around and not be supportive of another group that is in the same place that you currently are? Because at the end of the day, me as a Latinx woman, I experience discrimination. I know what it's like when I walk into a store and before they recognize me, they kind of follow me around or give me the price of an item even when I'm not asking for it. So how could I then turn around, right, and then discriminate against someone else? So for me, it's always baffling how we can say, fighting for our rights, discrimination is wrong, but only if it affects us. No, it's like discrimination is wrong across the board. And if you, as a group of people, know what it's like to be looked upon as less than, to have to fight for your rights, how can you then flip it and give the same hatred that you've been receiving to someone else? Again, it's about empathy. It's about being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And honestly, the more we stick together as a human race, the better we will be across the board, whether it's about religion, whether it's race, whether it's sexuality, whatever it is, whether it's right now, the coronavirus and staying home. We have to stick together. Across the board, we need to stop being so selfish. We need to stop thinking just about ourselves, and we need to really think about the human race. And the human race, the only way we're going to survive is if I protect you, you protect me, vice versa. So that's what I feel when I hear about some, fighting amongst. It's silly to me. It baffles me, and maybe it's a bit too kumbaya, but it is what it is.
No, it's definitely true. It's something that, like a person of color, like you live it. So it always baffles me to be like, how do you carry hate towards anyone? Because you know how it feels. So I totally get it. So when we talk about how can we center trans voices about trans experiences, and how do we prevent cis voices from overwhelming these narratives?
I'm going to take this really quickly, and then
Uh-huh.
Marisol, not that I want to silence you.
No,
But-
go ahead, girl.
but I
was
have
actually
something
hoping you
because-
took it.
But you know what? Because the reason why I want to jump in is because I read something recently, a review on our book. And it was very specific as to feeling a hesitation. It was actually 2 reviews, feeling a hesitation to read the book because they felt that my voice as a cis woman would overshadow my sisters. And then they said, gladly, that wasn't the case in the book. Both of these people started out kind of with the same sentiment. And then after reading the book, felt like, no, in this case, it was not that. For me, the reason why I wanted this book to be in both our voices was never to silence my sister, was never to make my celebrity overshadow her. It was to use my platform, A, to get the deal, right?
Uh-huh.
And 2, to showcase how we are more similar than we are not. It was important for me to highlight that. It was important for me to show how a cis woman and a trans woman could walk the same path, could come from the same homes, and could feel the same things, and could have empathy and sympathy for each other. It is our duty as cis people to allow trans people to share their stories in their own voices. It is our responsibility as cis people to let trans people speak up for themselves. And it is our responsibility in the media to demand that. I don't want to go to any more movies where a cis actor is playing a trans person. I'm not okay with a cis person writing a book solely, about, a trans person and not including that voice. Because this book was done with love. This book was done with true compassion on my part to support my sisters, and how I invite everyone else out there to support their loved ones if they are part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Thank you, sis.
You're welcome.
And so, just to add on to that, because I felt like my sister said everything that I wanted to say, but I wanted to make something, put it more out there as far as media. And when trans women are murdered, oftentimes in articles you see them misgendering them and calling them by their assigned birth name. And I think that's how cis people can change the narrative. And I think that most of these people know. You know what I'm saying? They know, they just do it on purpose to be shady and be messed up because they might not agree with it. But at the end of the day, if you're representing a media, that media means everybody. So people need to do better in changing the narratives in their media articles and being respectful to trans people.
Which this is a good question, is what does liberation mean to you in 2020, especially under these circumstances?
So liberation for me in 2020 means a whole new future for myself, being that I've had the tools and the platform that my sister has gifted me with to have a voice, and I look forward to that. But also liberation 2020 means visibility, truth, authenticity, and giving an example to the younger generation that might feel the same way that I have, but now they have the tools and all the vocabulary and the resources and educational knowledge to back it up and help them throughout their journey. So I think 2020 is looking really, really amazing for those who are trying to find themselves, because we have amazing people in our community and this community who are allies and really getting out there and putting great information and examples like the Dwayne family and showing that they're supporting their young daughters, which is an amazing example as well. So 2020 is looking really good for liberation.
My 2020 is not looking that great.
Well,
have you seen the memes yet?
But I know what you mean. But in my head, I was like, it's 2020 is challenging.
We gotta keep positive though, right?
Right, but we have to remain positive, and I love that. I think, I guess liberation to me is just, in general, always just living your truth and allowing others to live their truth. And I don't know, I thought liberation is literally that, is being able to get up every day as who you are with no excuses, no apologies, and that's liberating. Liberation is that freedom of truly being able to enjoy your life and your chosen career and everything in your own way without judgment. That's true liberation.
Yeah.
Often in time, people do message me and like, I want to come out to my family, but I just can't. So I hope that our story helps them move forward, and other people's story and the advocacy work that people are doing, and realize that you too can be yourself and live authentically and happily liberated.
So this last question was actually for somebody that works for us, and it was like a message right to you, Marisol, so I'm just going to read it as it was written. A lot of conversations focused on the transgender community deal more with our struggles and journey rather than our joys and successes. Mainstream stories of adult transgender people with thriving careers, families, and communities are few and far between, Marisol. What does living a proud and joyful trans life mean to you? Tell us about some of your successes and how you are thriving.
That's a good one.
Yes,
Right? I got chills reading it.
I think that just living my authentic self, being able to wake up every day and being in the body physically, like how I always envisioned myself being. Thriving to me is also like all the experiences that I've been through. Like, even though they were bad, I made them into something beautiful because it's going to be helping someone out there that might need to hear it. And so, yeah, some of my experiences were ugly, but they're also beautiful because they are what made me who I am today and moving forward. And so I've been interviewed by many outlets that have, gave me visibility and a voice to speak out. So I feel like that's also something to be happy about and successful. And having recognition from the Stonewall Foundation at their gala and honoring me and my sister, which never in a million years I would have thought that. And going on a platform, on a Spanish network platform to like, something I love doing is cooking, and I was able to do a little small segment there and get a little taste of what it would be like for me to have like my own show one day. And and so I think that was amazing for me to go through that experience.
You're such a good cook.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, now's the time. You could just start a little IG live and we'll all tune in.
Yes, this is the perfect time.
I'm all by myself. I need to learn how to cook.
Yeah,
Really?
this is the perfect time to do that.
I'm always surprised on how many people don't know how to cook.
Trust me, my grandma gets mad at me all the time.
Actually, I cook really good, so
I'm okay, I guess.
so good. We have to like tell ourselves that we're good and we're gonna get it done. I often tell people like, don't think negative about the process of cooking. Just have fun with it. And if you mess up, I've messed up before too. You just gotta try again, and you'll get it eventually. So I thought those are one of the things that helped me thrive and thriving continuously moving forward. And before, I never really used to count my blessings because I was at a place where a lot of my trauma and pain, I'm starting to realize that in the process of writing our book, right? And so I realized that, wait a minute, girl, you are thriving. Like you have come a long way. And I have to give that to myself because often I think even as just humans, we often forget about those things that really make us who we are and also just help uplift us and remind us of all the bad places where you are, where you were, and where you are now. So that's thriving, right? Where you were from 10 years ago and where you are from now. So don't ever feel like because the experience you've been through, you won't be able to thrive. No, you will. You just have to continue just being strong, keeping your head up high, share your story, express yourself to your loved ones, to friends. And I think that will help because it helps me actually having a voice and expressing all the things I've been through.
You got the glow. You're glowing. So last question because it's Lush. So how do you both practice self-care?
I enjoy, and my sister knows this,
Yeah.
and not just because it's Lush, but we have a collection of
You guys are
Lush
obsessed.
products. We are obsessed with Lush balms.
yes.
at any given moment, you will see sprinkles and rainbows and trails of all kinds of deliciousness in my tub and in my daughter. And I could literally be in the middle of the day and I'll be like, I need to go and soak in a bath. And that to me is a time for whether you just don't want silence or whether you have a little music in the background. I think there's just amount of like doing something that you feel just a moment of happiness and a moment of tranquility. And for me, something about water, something about oil, something about candles, all those elements are, and especially now during the quarantine time, makes me feel really good.
Thank goodness for baths.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Maybe that's how we all stay connected. Is everyone, let's have a bath.
Yes, right?
Factual. For me, my self-care, I would have to say honestly, like I got introduced to Lush by my niece. Okay, she's obsessed with Lush. I also love baths. I love taking baths and lighting up a candle and just turning off the lights, setting the tone and the mood, and just really just relaxing. I feel like there's something about that that really feeds your soul and calms you down. And cooking has always been a way for me of therapy. Whenever I feel
Eating
down.
has been my way.
And that too. Eating comfort foods, I think that's for everybody also. Like eating comfort food makes you super happy. Like food makes anyone happy, right? So
After this quarantine, we'll all be rolling out our apartments and our homes.
the rate and the gyms are going to be so high once we get back out there.
But we'll be so happy.
That's the
We
thing.
will be so happy. I will be filled with glitter. I will be just one glitter queen, and I'll be a little bit thicker, but hey. The other day I took a yoga class and it was amazing, and I got my sweat in, and Zumba classes, and dance classes. Like I just feel like this is the time really during this quarantine where we can meditate a little bit more. We can work on ourselves. It doesn't mean that you have to sit in front of the TV watching all the horrible news. I think we could stay alert, stay informed, do our part, but at the same time really take care of ourselves.
I love this. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just this is such a perfect way to celebrate International Day of Transgender Visibility. I also want to thank our Lush community and all the Lushies for providing us with great questions. And I really just enjoyed talking with you both. Watching the two of you interact together is very beautiful. It also makes me want to call my sister after this. So thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as the book, we're going to put this everywhere. Let's spread some love. Let's educate. Let's be open, and let's support each other. So thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Doesn't she have like such a zen quality? Like you,
He really does. So
I'm just like
collected.
Well, good, because I really just wanted to go and have a glass of wine with the two of you. And maybe one day we can manifest that.
Wait, hold on. I challenge the both of you to look at a YouTube video regarding cooking, something that you've been trying to make or eat, and try doing it.
Okay,
I like that.
I'll send you a photo.
Okay. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.